The story I'm going to tell you today is perhaps one of the most important lore topics that directly ties into Baldur's Gate 3. The D&D adventure module Descent into Avernus was actually written alongside Baldur's Gate 3. Wizards of the Coast and Larian Studios started forming the plots for their adventures in communication with each other, with Descent into Avernus taking place just before Baldur's Gate 3, but both are in 1492 DR. There's also an origin character in Baldur's Gate 3 named Karlach, and Karlach's origin backstory is Descent to Avernus. So if there was ever a time to start learning some lore, it's with this video, as I'm certain that today's video will enhance your Baldur's Gate 3 experience. But first, a message from one of my favorite video sponsors, Factor. I'm eating good. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. All you gotta do is heat and enjoy. Just need 2 minutes, and actually some of them are ready right out of the box. One of the biggest reasons why Factor may be for you is, of course, convenience, as cooking and the really unfortunate process of having to clean up is, of course, quite time-consuming. Well, that all goes away with Factor. Many times we do sacrifice health when we lose that time to cook, but with Factor's delicious meals, you can still stick to your wellness goals with premium meals featuring high-quality ingredients such as broccolini, leeks, and asparagus. Treat yourself to 34 plus weekly restaurant quality options like bruschetta, shrimp, risotto, I don't even know how to say half these things, green goddess chicken, and grilled steakhouse filet mignon. It all sounds delicious though. Also, if you're working out quite a lot, like I of course am doing, Factor does offer protein plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. For myself, Factor is my go-to solution for dinner and lunch when I'm on the run. Actually, now I think about it, I eat it all the time. And the protein shakes, chef's kiss. So if you like what you hear, head to factor75.com or use the link below and use code WolfheartFPS for 50% off your first Factor box. That is factor75.com, code WolfheartFPS for half off that first box. Go check it out. Back to the video. In 1352 DR, 140 years before the events in Baldur's Gate 3, an angel named Zariel had led an army out of the city of Elturel to go fight in the Blood War in Avernus, the uppermost layer of the Nine Hells, and also the primary battleground for this war's conflict. Elturel was a prosperous city of agriculture and trade, and it lies east of Baldur's Gate along the Chianthar River, and therefore it's a natural competitor with the city of Baldur's Gate. The Blood War is an ongoing chaotic war between devils and demons are these chaotic evil creatures that want to see the destruction of everything, while devils are of lawful evil alignment, with their goals being to preserve the worlds of the living, for without the living they would have no one to enact their evil schemes on, no one to dominate. A war of two evils. However, it's important to note that if you were to choose a side, siding with the devils may be the better choice here, as if the demons were to win this war, it would be the end of everything. Years before Zariel led this army out of Elturel to Avernus, she watched from the divine realms as the war raged on, destroying vast swaths of the multiverse in the process. She chastised her peers for not getting involved in the war, as she felt it was an angel's responsibility to destroy all evil rather than stand back and watch. One day Zariel had enough, and she left Mount Celestia and traveled to the city of Elturel, where she was able to convince and rally Elturel's army of elite soldiers known as Riders to fight with her in the Blood War and help put an end to this great evil that was affecting everyone. Zariel and her newfound army descended into Avernus through a portal in an epic charge that became known as the Ride. They took their fight to the archdevil of Avernus, Bel, and his infernal legions, and while the Riders fought bravely, the horrors of the Nine Hells proved far too great for many of them. Several of Elturel's soldiers began to flee back through the portal that they descended through, and they ultimately sealed it behind themselves. This was seen as an act of betrayal on their own people, as many Riders were still fighting or trapped in Avernus. Elturel's Riders would become known as the Hell Riders, and although they were well-renowned and respected, closing the portal before all could escape would be a badge of dishonor that they would carry to their graves. The remainder of Zariel's army was ultimately defeated, and she was captured and sent to the lowest layer of the Nine Hells, Nessus, to be brought before the Lord of the Nine Hells, the ruler of all devils, Asmodeus, or Asmodeus. To her surprise, Asmodeus welcomed her with open arms and commended her for her battle prowess and strength of her convictions. He even offered her rulership over Avernus itself, under one condition though, that she is to swear fealty to him and the Nine Hells. In this position of power, Zariel knew that she could fully let out her rage on the demons with her own legions of devils. Although both sides of the Blood War are evil, and Zariel's initial plan was to destroy all evil, there's no denying that the demons certainly possess more of a threat of complete chaotic destruction of all things good. Once an honorable, heroic celestial, Zariel accepted Asmodeus' terms and went from being an angel of the divine realms to becoming the new archdevil of Avernus. In her newly acquired position of power, Zariel did not forget the Hellriders that betrayed her, and she kept a patient eye on the city of Elturel, waiting for the day when she could enact her revenge. That day came in 1444 DR, when the city of Elturel was conquered by a vampire lord. With Elturel in a weakened state of panic and desperation, Zariel saw this as an opportunity. Zariel would emerge from a pillar of fire and speak to a priest of Torm in the city that goes by the name of Thavius Krieg, as Krieg was desperate for any and all help to save himself and the holy city. Zariel and Krieg ended up making a deal, but Zariel was not in the business of saving the city that betrayed her. Thavius signed an infernal contract with Zariel that would bring him great personal gain and power over the city of Elturel, but in the long run it would cause Elturel's destruction, as it would ultimately be taken over by Zariel herself. The details of this infernal contract were kept securely in an infernal puzzle box. Soon after this infernal contract was signed, a mysterious radiant sphere created by Zariel herself, called the Companion, appeared in the sky over the city of Elturel. The Companion was a blazing-like second sun powered by a planetar improvised within it, and it bathed Elturel and the surrounding countryside in holy light. The light laid waste to the undead army that had taken control of the city, and it sent the vampire lords scrambling to the shadows. Elturel was saved, and Thavius Krieg would take credit for summoning the Companion. He was then hailed as the savior of Elturel, and he rose to become its high overseer, a position that he would hold until the day finally came when it was Zariel's turn to reap the benefits of the infernal contract. Thavius, aware of what was soon to come, urged the Grand Duke of Baldur's Gate, Alder Ravengard, to visit his city of Elturel to help solve some standing disputes between the two cities. Alder Ravengard was an honorable lifelong soldier of Baldur's Gate, and also the current Marshal of the Flaming Fists, which were a mercenary band that served as the city's guard for Baldur's Gate. Ravengard was highly disciplined, and he possessed a great sense of duty to his city, but he was reluctant to go on this diplomatic mission, for he knew that it was unlikely that Thavius truly had good intentions for both of their cities. Eventually, though, Ravengard was convinced by one of the other dukes of Baldur's Gate, named Thalamra Vanthampur, to make the journey to Elturel. It was then that things drastically changed. The Companion in the sky, once a savior of the city, began to transform from a radiant sun into a black orb emitting cackling powerful energy. The city of Elturel and all of its inhabitants were then ripped from the material plane and transported to Avernus. An entire city gone, just like that. Thavius Krieg, however, had left the city beforehand and secretly fled to Baldur's Gate, knowing what was about to transpire. He took refuge with Duke Thalamra Vanthampur, who he of course had been conspiring with. Alder Ravengard, on the other hand, was present in Elturel during this catastrophic event, and he was waiting to attend the diplomatic meeting that he didn't want to attend in the first place. Elturel was teleported to the skies of Avernus, and it hovered in the air as chains began slowly pulling it down into the hellish landscape. The city was doomed to slowly be pulled down into the river Styx if nothing was done to save it. The river Styx, also known as the Blood River, is a river that links the topmost layers of the lower planes of existence, and it offered a way to travel between planes. This river was the backbone of the Blood War, and demons would attempt to use it to enter Avernus from the plane of existence known as the Abyss. Those who touched or drank from the river would completely forget their past, and their souls would be easy prey for denizens of the Nine Hells. If the city of Elturel were to be pulled down, Zariel would have the souls of an entire city to once again fight for her, but this time as slaves. And this is right about where your adventure begins as a player if you were to play the Descent into Avernus D&D campaign. Most players do embark on this campaign in hopes of saving Elturel from its destruction, and somehow finding a way to have it return to the material plane. Now, what we do know that ends up being canon in this story is that Elturel is ultimately saved, as in BG3, the city is back on Faerun, but currently in a rather apocalyptic state. When you meet Tiefling refugees in BG3, these Tieflings have been kicked out of their home city of Elturel due to the descent into Avernus. Many citizens and political figures no longer trust any who have ties to the Hells, and as many of you are aware, Tieflings' bloodlines go back to that of fiends. But truthfully, Tieflings are no more or less good or evil than any regular human may be. As for the canon ending for the Archdevil Zariel, everything that we learn in BG3 points towards Zariel still being an Archdevil. In the D&D campaign, it is possible to save Zariel and have her return to her former, more angelic self. But in BG3, according to the origin character named Karlach, who is currently fleeing from Zariel, Zariel is still an archdevil tyrannical figure of the Hells. Karlach is actually a Hell Rider, and that is a huge part of her origin character's backstory. I did do an hour-long narration of the Descent into Avernus adventure module from the perspective of an adventuring party, but not everything that I had happen in my particular story turned out to be canon, so keep that in mind if you end up watching it. I will leave a link below in the video description. And also, if you're not caught up on my lore series, I'll leave a link to the playlist down below. I think this is video number 13 in this particular lore series that is being created to help you get a better foundation of knowledge for Baldur's Gate 3. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to all the new patrons and channel members, and also all of those super thanks that you guys have been doing on the videos. Much appreciated, and I'll catch you on the next one.